Hello and welcome to Wisdom Trek. This is Guthrie Chamberlain, and I'm your guide to wisdom and creating a living legacy. Thank you for joining us for our 7-day-a-week, 7 Minutes of Wisdom podcast. This is day 163 of our trek, and yesterday we discovered how life is like a word well spoken. In other words, we need to understand how important our words are every day. Today we are going to return to camp for a few days. We will sit around the campfire, roast some hot dogs, maybe make some s'mores, and then we'll discuss the 4th chapter of Proverbs. If you do miss any of the days of our Wisdom Trek, please go to wisdom-trek.com to listen to them or to read our daily journal. We are recording our podcast from our studios at home too in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have just returned from our Podcasters Paradise Cruise, and I have to say, it was one of the best and most valuable conferences that we have ever attended. The small group of podcasters and the high caliber of speakers, along with the cruise venue, really made it a great week. We made some new friends, and we have returned home with a new vigor to make Wisdom Trek even more impactful. Plus, we solidified some plans for the next step within the podcasting community. I will be announcing these plans over the next few weeks as we begin to finalize some of the details going into 2016. So keep listening each day for additional information. After we've had such a busy trek over the last 10 days, where we compared life to various topics, we will remain in camp for the next few days as we dig for more wisdom nuggets that are contained in the book of Proverbs chapter 4. Regardless of your personal spiritual persuasion, the book of Proverbs contains such great nuggets of wisdom that they can be applied to everyone's life. And as we sit around the campfire today, let us drink in the crisp fall air and the smell of the burning wood, which sets the environment for reflection and contemplation. It is absolutely necessary that we take time in our lives, even on a daily basis, for reflection and contemplation. These are the times where we become really creative and energized to make an impact on the lives of others. So let's start right in today with Proverbs chapter 4, and we'll cover verses 1 through 9. As we start digging into the 4th chapter of Proverbs, it is important to know that the first 9 verses of this chapter, in their original Hebrew language, were really in a form of a poem. This poem was not just about Solomon's family, who was king at the time. It's about all families. As parents, we are responsible for teaching our children. Even as grandparents, as I am now, we can have a significant impact on our grandchildren. This is the training that needs to be passed down through each generation. As your children and grandchildren grow older, they are responsible for their own children for training them properly. When the book of Proverbs was written, Solomon's family was Israel's royal family. In this poem, the father does not teach us about being a king or royalty. He does not speak about wealth or money. He does not explain how to lead a nation. For this father, which was King Solomon, only one thing mattered: his children must learn wisdom. We can also teach our children about many things, but we must not forget to teach them wisdom. This is the most important lesson of all that they can learn throughout their lives. So let's start in with verses 1 and 2. My children, listen when your father corrects you. Pay attention and learn good judgment, for I am giving you good guidance. Don't turn away from my instructions. So we see in these 2 verses that the poem begins with a command to listen. The father will teach valuable lessons to his children. So let's move on to verse 3. For I too was once my father's son, tenderly loved as my mother's only child. So we see in this verse, the advice did not begin with the father, which was King Solomon, who was writing this poem. The father learned his lessons from his own father, which was King David. The lesson is good because it is ancient. It surpasses time. Grandfather King David followed this advice, and he saw it was good advice. The fathers lived by this advice too, so now he teaches it to his own children. The words in verse 3 speak about the father's childhood. These words suggest of a loving home. The father was a grandmother's only child, so he was very close to her. The grandfather taught his lesson with love to this little child. So let's move on to verse 4. My father taught me, take my words to heart, follow my commands, and you will live. So we see here that the grandfather began his lessons in the same way as the poet did, which was King Solomon. The grandfather also emphasized that the lesson was very important. Today, many people say things are important. A salesman will say that his advice is important. This is because a salesman wants us to buy his product. But we can doubt salesmen and politicians, but we must never doubt God's word. The book of Proverbs repeats its advice because wisdom really is important. So let's move on to verses 5 and 6. Get wisdom, develop good judgment. Don't forget my words or turn away from them. Don't turn your back on wisdom, for she will protect you. Love her, and she will guard you. At last we hear the advice. This is the lesson that the grandfather taught. We must learn to be wise. As in earlier chapters, he compares wisdom to a woman. Wisdom, like a woman, deserves our love. Like a woman, she will protect you if you love her. So let's move on to verse 7. Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do, and whatever else you do, develop good judgment. We see that wisdom is better than everything else. It is better than money. It is better than beauty. It is better than health. Wisdom is worth more than everything that you own. Remember that these words came from Israel's royal family. They had great wealth, but wisdom is more important than the wealth that they had. So let's go on to verse 8 now. If you prize wisdom, she will make you great. Embrace her, and she will honor you. So we see, as in verse 6, the poet compares wisdom to a woman. In verse 6, the poet tells us to love wisdom. And in verse 8, it tells us to embrace her. There's nothing more special than a good, tight embrace. And we should get closer and closer to wisdom. We shall benefit if we do so. Wisdom will lift us higher and give honor to us. And like a woman, wisdom looks after those that love her. And move on to verse 9. She will place a lovely wreath on your head. She will present you with a beautiful crown. At the end of this poem, the royal family speaks about a crown. This crown is not the gold crown or silver crown that the king might wear. This crown is for a king, but even a poor person can wear this crown too. Wisdom gives honor to us. This gift is like a beautiful crown. In the introduction to this poem, we saw that it was about every family. This poem was not just about Israel's royal family. Every family can teach wisdom. Every person can trust in God and learn to be wise. We can all wear wisdom's crown. And Jesus said it this way in the Good News according to John, chapter 12, verse 26. Anyone who wants to serve me must follow me, because my servants must be where I am. And the Father will honor anyone who serves me. So as we've reflected around the campfire today, as parents and grandparents, we now understand better that we have an awesome responsibility to teach our children and grandchildren wisdom and the value that it brings to our lives. We must also instill within them to continue this through all generations to do the same. The lessons that we can learn from each other are valuable, so encourage your friends and family to join us each day and come along with us tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. And tomorrow, we will remain at camp and continue our investigation in Proverbs chapter 4. That will finish our podcast for today. Remember to listen to your daily dose of wisdom at wisdom-trek.com, or you can subscribe at iTunes, Google Play, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or YouTube, and the episodes will be downloaded to you automatically each day. And once again, please share Wisdom Trek with your family and friends through email, Facebook, Twitter, or in person as you meet with them, and invite them to come along with us each day. The journal for today's trek can be found at wisdom-trek.com. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, but most importantly, I consider you my friend, as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal each day. As we take this trek together, let us always live abundantly or fully, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. This is Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and then create a great day every day. See you tomorrow.